Today I'd like to show you how to play Au Clair de la Lune, which is an anonymous French folk song. Let's take a look at the melody line for Au Clair de la Lune. You'll notice that we start out with 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a simple melody that's based on the key of G major. Let's remember what our key of G major consists of. Of course, that it has F sharps to be aware of in this key. Let's take a closer look. We have G, 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 A, B, A, G, B, A, G. And that's the first phrase. Now, if you want to get a little bit more technical with proper technique, we can use 3 different fingers to play those 3 Gs. Even though it's the same note, it's the most effective when you use different fingers to play them, because it'll give you a smoother touch than using your thumb repetitively. It's up to you, however you choose to do it. If you're looking for the simpler version, just use your thumb. Make sure you keep your notes as smoothly as you can. Now, while this is happening in the right hand, the left hand is giving a nice small accompaniment based on the G major triad. Let's try that together. Now the second half is going to be based with 4 A's in a row, starting with your 3rd finger. You'll notice that there's a small little descending scale passage here in which your 2nd finger will cross over your thumb in the left hand, and they'll both move together in parallel motion. Slow down here just a little bit for some nice dramatic effect, and then we carry on with the last line sounding just like the second line. Let's take a look at how to play Silent Night. Let's take a look at the melody line of Silent Night. You can do this one of 2 ways. If you need a simpler version, simply use the top note, but it has a very nice effect when we play in thirds. To play these effectively, I would start with my 2nd and 4th fingers on E and G, so that the rest of my fingers are set up for all the rest of the notes. You notice that the E is still there with my 2nd finger. I don't really need to move around. Now, if you find that this is too tricky, you can simply play just the top note. And you'll still get the same effect. It's up to you how you choose to tackle this one. Let's take a look at the left hand that joins it. You may start with simple fifths in the left hand, starting on C. Now, if you prefer, you may also expand on those a little bit and break it into a small C major triad using broken rhythms. This gives it a nice effect as well. That's entirely up to you. For now, we can stick with just the fifths if you like. You'll see I used a small arpeggio, which is an extended version of a broken chord, in the left hand. So I took my fifth, second, and first fingers to play an extended F major, and then I crossed over with my second finger. This part as well in the right hand, we can simplify and use just the top note. Or we can use fuller extended chords. If you like, you may play a second verse of this. Sometimes it sounds quite nice if it's doubled up into the next octave. Hi, welcome back. Let's take a look at the minuet from Mozart's opera Don Giovanni. It's quite a cute little song. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the minuet from Don Giovanni by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Let's take a look at Mozart's minuet from Don Giovanni. To play the minuet, we should probably start out with our G major scale. Get your fingers working. We'll also start with our left hand using an extended G major chord. Now, I find it best to use 5, 3, 2, 1. This will keep your hand in an extended position. If you have smaller hands, you may rotate just ever so slightly to reach that high G. Now your right hand is going to be playing up at the top with B and D. I would start with your first and second fingers. You want to be very careful that you're not attacking the notes too heavily. We should be playing quite softly for this piece. Now the next phrase is going to move down. What you're going to have are some double thirds to be wary of. Do be careful that you're using correct fingering. Let's take a look at what's going to happen here. Now, to achieve the best finger position for the right hand for these thirds here, you would want to use your third and fifth fingers to start off, your second and fourth fingers for A and C, and your first and third for G and B. You may need to start out at half speed or even slower than that in order to make it work. I also find that when learning how to play thirds, it's best if you start quite slowly and go in both directions. Make sure your fingers, of course, are curved and close to the keys. Let's take a closer look again. Now here we're going to be moving up into you'll be having a couple of parallel sixths. This is quite difficult to play smoothly, so it's best recommended if you use your thumb on the bottom 3 notes. As you get towards the A, you can bring your hand with you and it'll achieve a nice smooth effect. If you start with your third finger on D, you'll be able to play those top 3 notes quite smoothly. That's the first half. Now for the second half, let's take a look first at our left hand and notice that we have an extended position again in which we'll be playing with an octave followed by a C. We'll play this 3 times in a row. I wouldn't start any faster than that. In fact, I would probably start as 8th notes as opposed to 16ths. You would want to practice just getting from here to here and back down to the D. Start out quite slowly. This will make you a little bit more comfortable. And as you become more comfortable, you can certainly speed up. And that's what we're aiming for. 1, 2, 3. And then for the next 3 beats, we're going to play a broken G major triad. Let's take a look at that again. You'll notice that I'm tending to bring out the first of each group of 4 16th notes. This is the best way to make them sound quite nice. We don't need them all to be equal. It's a little bit too heavy. This way we can lighten up on the top notes and just bring out that first of the group. Let's see what our right hand is doing for this part here. You'll notice that we have some triads in a row, followed by short little verses, and then we have some thirds again. And these are the same as the thirds that were in the first half, so be sure to try and use the same fingers. 1 and 3, to 2 and 4, to 3 and 5. Now again, you'll see that I've done a repeated note pattern in which I'm switching fingers on the same note. 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the best way for you to get your hand in position for the next part, as well as it gives the note a better sound than it would if we played them all just with our thumb. Let's try that together. Let's take a look at Long, Long Ago by T.H. Bailey. This is also in the key of G major. Let's refresh our memory. And here we go. Let's take a look at the left hand part for Long, Long Ago. Now we've already warmed up, I hope, with our G major scale, so instead we'll take a look at the triads first. So the triad, as we know, should be the first, third, and fifth degrees of the scale. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to break them up. And this will repeat itself for 2 measures. And then we'll change into a D major triad, and back to G major, followed by another 2 measures of G, This is a very common left-hand method which has been used in countless songs over the years. It's really been a very nice technique to be able to play them. You're going to play this with your left hand 5th finger on G, and you bring that note out above the rest of them so that they're not all of equal. It gets too heavy if you let your thumb become the main note. You want your G to be the one that stands out above the rest. And that's going to come with a right hand melody like so. You notice I switched fingers. This enables me to reach the E best with my 5th finger. Let's try that first phrase, hands together. Now your next phrase is going to have 2 small little passages for the right hand. Best if you start both of them with your 4th finger, because your 4th finger is already there from the first phrase. And then you'll bring your 4th finger down to C. Let's try that one, hands together. Now your next phrase is a repeat of the first one. As we get into the second half of the song, we have an interesting little right hand melody in which we make a bit more of an extension with our thumbs all the way down to the D. We'll start out with our small phrase. And our left hand part has changed a little bit. to the last line, which is similar to the first two. Let's try the third line hands together. And there you have Long, Long Ago. Hi, today I'd like us to take a look at Auld Lang Syne, a very familiar song which I hope everyone knows. Let's take a look. Let's start with the right hand for Auld Lang Syne. Let's try that one more time, a little bit more slowly. Take a close look at how the fingers are going to be used. For the second half, you may use thirds with nice harmonies, and this will give it a fuller sound. One more time with the thirds. Your left hand as well may be used quite simply, just using solid chords. You may choose to use either the full 4-note form of C major or just the 3-note triad, depending on the size of your hand and the level of your skill. You may also choose to break up the chords as well. That's a more advanced technique in which you'll be rotating between low and high notes in the left hand using arpeggios. Entirely up to you. For now, let's stick with our solid chords on each beginning of each bar. Let's take a look at the melody line for Auld Lang Syne. One more time. Now the next part, you may decide to use thirds or continue just using the same as the top note as what we were using. Or for a fuller sound, we may use thirds. This is entirely up to you, depending on your abilities and your comfort level with using thirds. It's a good idea to practice very slowly to make sure that you're getting all the right fingers. Now let's take a look at the left hand. We'll simply use chords to make sure that we've got a nice harmonic basis for the song. Now you'll be going back and forth between this and this, so I find it's best when we're using our G major chord to use my 5th, 2nd, and 1st finger so that my 3rd finger is set up for F, because we'll be playing a D7th chord next, in which my thumb will just extend between B and C. These are mostly the two most used chords in this song. Now let's take another look. Here we have C major. I've chosen to play it as a 4-note chord. However, if your hands are not large enough to reach that octave, you don't need the top C. And you can just play a regular C triad. Let's carry on. Have a Happy New Year! Let's take a look at the song In May by Franz Bear. For In May, we'll be basically using 2 chords for the left hand, C major and a G7th. Practice going back and forth between the two. And let's make sure that we have nice curved fingers, of course. We should also practice our C major scale just to be on the safe side. It's been a while since we've played it, so I'm sure. So let's take a look at these chords again, and we'll be playing them broken up, starting with the lowest note, the 3rd, and then the 5th. And essentially, we'll be sticking with these for the majority of the song, with only a few exceptions. Once you're comfortable with this, we can take a look at the left hand. So your right hand is going to start out simply with a C major triad in reverse, and it will finish with a D. Let's try that first phrase, hands together. next phrase will be basically the same idea. You'll notice that instead of going back down to the G7, I changed the left hand up to here and then into an F. So let's take a look at that again. The next phrase is as follows. And it plays it twice. When we play this one, we'll be starting first with the G7 and then back to the C triad. And back to the beginning. Hi, today I would like to show you how to play Pachelbel's Canon in D. Let's warm up for the canon in D by starting with our D major scale, which includes an F sharp and C sharp. And we'll start most likely with the left hand, which will be much easier to figure out right off the bat. And we'll start with our D, A, B, F sharp, G, D, G, A. Try that again. This song uses the same bass line throughout with only minimal alterations towards the end. For right now, let's continue just doing this. Now your right hand, in the opening, will start out carrying on with a chord following that D. It'll be a D major triad broken up. So once we have our D, then we move on to our A. You want to make these transitions as smoothly as you can, so be sure to use fingers that make the most sense for your hand shape and your abilities. Now we play B minor, F sharp minor, G major, D major, G major, and A major. Try that one more time, starting with your D major, A major, B minor, F sharp minor, what will happen is our left hand will end up taking those same chords that we used both hands to play. You'll notice that it doesn't sound quite the same. As long as you keep that left hand, that low note down, you'll have a smoother sound, which will sound much nicer. Let's warm up for the canon in D with our D major scale, including F sharp and C sharp. We'll start simply with our left hand on its own. The bass line is repetitive and continues to do the same thing throughout. Let's take another look. D, A, B, F sharp, G, D, G, and A. Your right hand will carry on with the chords following these notes, including D major, A major, B minor, F sharp minor, G major, and D major. These are the notes that we'll be using. One more time. Now for the second part, your left hand will take all four of those notes that we just played between the two hands. Do your best to keep your left hand pinky down to hold that bass note throughout, because that's what makes a canon sound like a canon, the repetitive nature of those notes. Let's try the second part with our right hand, including the F sharp as a nice complement. Take a listen. Next, we will look at the third part, in which your right hand will take over for the eighth notes, and your left hand will continue back down to just half note rhythms. This time adding just a couple of extra notes. Take a look again. Let's take a look at just the right hand here. We're basically moving through the D major scale. Let's take another look at that right hand melody for the third part of this song. Double notes may be eliminated for terms of making it more easy for yourself to play. If you find that they are too challenging to add that thumb in, you can eliminate that note. Let's try that. Of how comfortable you feel with playing those double notes. Either way, they still sound exactly the same, so you don't really need them if you find that they are too challenging. Taking another look at the left hand for part 3, we will be using a few octaves. For those of us who have smaller hands, you may roll them, playing them quickly one after the other, or you may eliminate the top note so that you still get that bass note, which is very important. It's a question of what you're more comfortable with. And that's part 3. The left hand in part 4 will now be using thirds and fifths. Still keeping that main bass line. Let's try that again. So we start with a third for D, then a fifth above A, a third above B, a fifth above F sharp, a third above G, a fifth above D, a third above G, and last a third above A. This is where your right hand will be playing faster passages, and you'll be using still the D major scale. Let's try that one more time. Let's go about half speed. may speed this up gradually as you become more comfortable with the notes. Don't rush playing these notes quickly. It will come in time. For the next part for canon, your right hand will be playing a faster passage, but it would be best if we start to play it a little bit more slowly just so you can get to know the notes. That's a small part of the phrase. Let's try that one more time. And now it continues with this. Let's try that one more time. Let's take a look at the left hand, which we'll also be using thirds and fifths, always maintaining that bass line that we've already learned. One more time with thirds and fifths. You may use fingers that work the most comfortably for yourself. However, I find if I start with my first and second, then I will be able to have my first and fourth ready for the next ones. And then I tend to hold the note down and switch to different fingers. This way it keeps the note sounding long and smooth. This may take some extra time to practice on. Take your time slowly and feel which fingers work best for you. Let's try that together now.